Hey there, this is Ona with Art of Awakening. Welcome to my channel. Um, if you were just on my live, thank you for showing up. And if you tried to go on the live and weren't able to actually see the reading, I am so sorry. This was my very first live. I kind of have been initiated now in the what can go wrong on a live stream. So hopefully the next one will go better. In fact, it will, because I will be working with this technology and making sure it will. So join me tomorrow morning if you're an early riser at 7 a.m. I'll be doing a live stream on working with spirit animals to step into your purpose. And this is part of the New Beginning 2020. But for now, I'm just going to record this one. I just took down the one that was before because there were just too many times that the video was stopping. So it's having some bandwidth problems. And so this is a reading here for this coming week, for the week of November 24th, Thanksgiving week 2019, and just a quick energy update, pull in a few cards, and get you maybe a little bit of insight to help along in this week. So first off, this is what I'm feeling in terms of the energy. It's kind of a continuation of the last few weeks. And I don't know if you've seen my last video from last week. It was all about shedding. And there's, still that going on. We're just kind of coming through this whole period, especially during Mercury retrograde, of purification and letting go. Really letting go on deep levels. And I'm seeing this as a trend happening with many people all around the country and even the world. We are all, of course, connected as a collective. And so there is this sense right now that I'm getting that we are all being asked to step into our truth and to really align with our true selves, and in order to step forward into this new energy that's coming in, especially for 2020. 2020 is going to be a year of really, and I've been feeling this for a long time, that things are really going to start to open up for a lot of us who've been on this ascension path for quite a while, and really align. And you may have been feeling this, okay? And the thing is, though, that when we start aligning with our truth, it means it's sort of like we're stepping onto the truth, but it's gonna end up shedding things off, okay? So throughout most people's awakening process, there is this whole process of purification and shedding and letting go of the old. And this can be, ultimately, it's really bringing in more beautiful things for you on all levels. But this is why so many people, when they start to awaken, they're like, everything was ripped out of my life. And that can happen. I mean, it does not have to be painful, okay? But just expect that this is a normal process. And the encouragement right now is to embrace it and to realize that when we align with our real truth, there's going to be people that aren't happy about that, and to be okay with that. Okay, so here are just a few things to maybe a few points that I'm being encouraged to share about this whole process of letting go, stepping into your truth. And one of them was just what I just said, is like, you can't make everybody happy. And one kind of energy that I think a lot of us are stepping out of is this whole people-pleasing kind of thing, and wanting everything to be super harmonious all the time. And the thing is, we're getting there. So ultimately, ultimately, when we are stepping into a more harmonious kind of collective, but there are steps in the process where, like, not everybody is kind of ascending at the same rate. Some people maybe, and this is not a judgment, and it is not a comparing, am I going faster than anybody else? It really isn't, because we're all working with different timelines and stuff anyway. But at any given point in time, you may fall in and out of step with different people. Okay. And just knowing that it's okay to fall out of step with somebody, that's all right. Um, if you are feeling, I guess what I really want to point out is that sometimes when we start stepping onto our own path and listening to our higher guidance, we'll get feedback from others. Now, it's always good to get feedback because sometimes we get caught up in our own little patterns, and the feedback, even if it's painful feedback, can really help us to shift out of those. So, encouragement is to not just not just like reject feedback, and to recognize that if it's, especially if it's a person who knows you, to recognize that usually that person will have your best interest in mind, you know, if you've got a relationship going or whatever, but also recognize that they're dealing with their own stuff and they've got their own patterns going on. Sometimes these patterns are real subtle, and it can ultimately, that the decision is going to be yours, and that's the way it should be, right? So yes, yes, gather feedback, yes, listen to it, and really weigh it. You know, is this true? But you may find that there are times where the feedback, though it's meant to be supportive, and though it might on the face be supportive, and especially if you notice this happening over time, patterns again and again, and this, I mean, it may be situations where, you know, there might be really, really solid things in the advice, but if you find there's a pattern of consistently bringing you down into feelings of guilt, shame, or confusion, um, then really consider, do I really need to stay in this energy, right? And if your guidance keeps telling you that maybe there's a situation that isn't feeling good over consistently over time, and this could be anything, it could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be, you know, career, it could be a diet or something, it could be a habit, it could be anything, and these are sometimes things that we know maybe aren't the greatest. Like if we have a cocaine habit, that probably is not going to be in your best interest in the long term, right? Some of those things were, it's easy to know, right? Others are a lot harder. Like, you know, if you have a good job and you might even actually enjoy the job, but there's something about it that your energy is just not right um, each time you go, or you may find that after months and months, it's like it's like you can't ever raise your vibe in this place. It might be a particular room in your home, maybe it needs redecorating, okay, let's just change it. But things like that, where it just consistently, that you just have this feeling of this just isn't right. And when you start stepping out of that, if it is threatening to other people, sometimes they don't want to see that change. They don't want to see you change. Either there's jealousy or there's some kind of entanglement going on or whatever it is. But just recognize that if the feedback is such that it keeps you doubting yourself, really consider, you know, you're the one who's the captain of your own ship. And ultimately, you know, you got to make your decisions. And that can be scary because any decision we make, especially if it's stepping out of a situation or a person or a relationship or a place that has nurtured you or does still nurture you or has a lot of good aspects to it, or it's a good person, the person that you love, or a place that you love, or whatever it is, it's really hard and we can doubt ourselves. But keep listening to that still small voice, because ultimately, when we don't listen and continue to be in that situation or place or relationship or whatever it is against what our higher self is guiding us, then it will it'll turn more and more toxic. Okay, and that's not good for anybody, especially even if it's a person that is trying to keep you in it or would like to see you in it. And this could be very so well-meaning, right? Could be an employer who just doesn't want to see you go, and maybe it's a great employer. Okay, but for whatever reason you've got to go, leave the job. You just know. This doesn't mean that we have to act on every little whim right away. Okay, definitely feel into it, but you will know eventually, this is my higher self speaking, and honor that. Okay, nobody can take that away from you. Nobody. And don't let anybody shame you or guilt you or anything else into believing that you're not good enough, or that there's something wrong with you, or that you're being deluded when you're really standing in your truth, and you're listening to that. Okay, they may leave your life, and that's okay, and that may be painful, so honor that and be grateful for whatever they've brought. Okay, don't necessarily shut your heart to them, but do draw your boundaries. And they may be drawing their boundaries too, because sometimes these things are mutual, okay? In that, for whatever reason, your time together needs to come to a close. And sometimes it's like, okay, staying in that situation is not going to be good for either of you. And you may see other people drawing boundaries against you. That's fine. Okay, send them love, send them light. Wish them the best on their way, and do what you need to do. Okay, because things will open up. This is all about letting in the new light, letting in the new. So just pulling a few cards for this coming week. This is Thanksgiving week, and I'm also going to be sort of mentioning the cards that came forward in the other reading. So the one I just drew now was Beaver, and Beaver has a lot to do with family. So we've got Thanksgiving coming up, and Beaver really is about both family and boundaries, interestingly enough. Okay, so beavers are extremely territorial, right? They will really defend, and so they've got this, this whole family thing, but they'll defend their family ground against other beavers, or that kind of thing. So really kind of keeping in mind that that you have your own boundaries, right? So that your first duty, as it were, is to source, right? To stay in alignment with that, and then it's to yourself, okay, before anybody else, including family. And whether it's soul tribe or flesh and blood family, sometimes those of us who are very empathic and who love our brothers and sisters of all sorts will sacrifice their own self sometimes for the sake of harmony. So watch that, okay? Because sacrificing your own truth is never going to be good for anybody, okay? But we can do it. One of the cards that came up before was was porcupine. So porcupine also is about standing the ground, right? A buffalo came up before too. Also, it has to do with standing the ground, but we can do it without being prickly, without bringing that porcupine prickle, right? So how can you hold your ground and still hold that love and be in that loving space? That's going to be the challenge potentially for this week, is to hold loving space and still stand your ground, okay? Not easy always, and it can be painful. Sometimes we need to just let people go, or whatever it is that we're letting go. But the gratitude is another one, I think, that came forward with the bison that came up forward earlier, is that bringing gratitude into it always helps to smooth and ease these kinds of transitions. or changes, because when we can really acknowledge the beautiful and the good that has come out of, or that continues to be, or is within whatever situation it is that you need to let go of, do so with gratitude and acknowledgement of the light that's there, because whether it's a situation that has been horrible and painful, or a situation that has really brought you a lot of wonderfulness, right? Awesomeness. When it's time to go, the time is there to go. And just recognizing that, again, it doesn't mean that we have to make these decisions immediately right away, but when you've hashed it through with your higher self, and perhaps gotten a lot of other second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth opinions, weigh those opinions. Ultimately comes to you. Okay, this is leadership. This is promoting yourself to CEO, to a leader position, like a CEO of a company. They ultimately make the decisions. They make the tough choices sometimes. They have advisors and people who know probably way more than they do about a lot of the other things. They have to be able to listen, and to listen with discernment, because sometimes when feedback we get from others it hits in our ego, right? And that can be really hard, and it's very easy to take that feedback and have that porcupine attitude. It's like, right? So really weighing, especially if it's from a source that you respect, and really consider, is this true? Is this fully true for me? How much of it is true? What part of it really rings true? And be willing to, look it in the face and see the naked truth in it, because it might cut you to the core. Sometimes those things that cut us to the core are the ones that really we need to hear, because it's showing us our blind spots. But at other times, if it's like, if you've worked through a lot of blind spots, maybe, right? And this energy, whatever it is that you have to let go, is still weighing at you. And it's like, I've worked through this and worked through this and worked through this on my own. And for whatever reason, maybe it's energy that's not yours. Maybe it's energy that you simply have, that the letting go in and of itself is going to release for you. Clear it from your field. Sometimes it's the act of letting go that clears it, not necessarily that the energy itself, maybe it wasn't yours, but just that act is an act of power. Okay, so Horse Spirit is coming up. Freedom, and this is all about the freedom to be yourself. Okay. Horse, huge freedom, and it's also hugely balance. Okay, so freedom. People think of free as being, whoa, I can do whatever I want. No, freedom is really having that balance, and being able to move from a grounded space. So if you think in terms of like a judo master, that they're really grounded and they can go in any direction, right? Because they have that kind of groundedness, and they're very well trained, and that they can know how to move like this in any direction in response to whatever's going on around them. Okay, but also, just knowing that you're the one ultimately that creates your reality. This is true freedom. Okay, it's the stepping into and owning your own power, and that's what's really going to carry you forward. Not somebody else's power, your power. I'm pulling from different card decks here. This first one was from my own spirit animal deck. This one is the Colette Baron Reed animal deck. I'm going to pull one from the Shaman Wisdom cards. This is always an interesting deck to pull from. I find it kind of esoteric in that it's, if you like Native American symbolism and traditions, this one's based on the medicine wheel, which I love. And it has some different ones. Okay, this is called the long night moon, and it corresponds to Capricorn energy. I think that mirrors the beaver here. Okay, so Capricorn energy tends to be actually this. I didn't mention this before, but the whole industriousness. Okay, so I'd say on this theme of stepping into your own truth, it is a discipline. It is a discipline, okay, and it also requires that you have a certain amount of I want to say fire, even though Capricorn is an earth sign. It's got this sort of wanting, or just kind of aspirations, having aspirations, right? If you are not clear on what it is that you desire, you are not going, I mean, you're always going to be running around in circles, okay? So it's okay to want things, right? The universe really respects when we have a very clear picture of what it is that we do want, because that is, that's when it will start, when we get that really clear picture and then we start really aligning with that. Universe tends to fill in the gaps for us. It's really cool, and that's the kind of energy that's coming forward here. Also got Cougar here, again, more about boundaries and really staying in your own truth. And then lastly, I'm going to pull a Michael card and see what Michael will have to say for us. Do you like my flowers? I've been guided to do a lot of self-care this week. And that's another part of owning your truth, is really respecting yourself and just being, just really caring for yourself, giving you what you need. Which may not be just your bare basic needs to survive. It could be, flowers for me is food for the soul, and giving yourself that food for the soul as well. Nurturing yourself in all ways. When you do that, it opens things up. Okay, so here's the card. I keep getting this one too. Romance angels are helping you. This is beautiful. Okay, so romance yourself. Like, and maybe for some of you it might be the actual romance coming in, but I think ultimately you're not going to get whatever romance means to you, whether it's the job of your dreams or going on a trip or a relationship. The romance will come in for you once you start romancing your own self. And it's so funny, I just mentioned flowers and that this card came up, but this card's really been coming up for me a lot lately. And then this other one that sort of called to me to pull is guarded and protected. Okay, so no matter what feedback you're getting, no matter what kind of pushback you're getting, especially the pushback, know that when you really align with your truth, you do have higher source guardian protecting you. Okay, so don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't let anybody say anything that's going to make you doubt yourself. Once you've come to that place where you really know what your path is, what you really know what it is that you need to do, where you're feeling very grounded, okay? If you're feeling confused about, do I have to keep checking? If you're, second guessing yourself all the time, you haven't come to that place yet. Or you may have realized it, but you're not ready for it yet. But once you really come to that place and you know it, don't let anybody tell you that you are, not, just don't let anybody just try to pull you away from that. Hold your ground, right? You know yourself better than anybody. You're the only one that can make your decisions for you. Your higher self has a direct connection with Source, and don't you ever forget it, okay? So love you so much, and much love and many blessings. Happy, wonderful Thanksgiving to you. I may actually do another reading or maybe even a live stream on Thanksgiving. But even if I don't, happy holiday, love and blessings to you, and have a wonderful week.